our host today, Miss Leslie Love. Thank you for joining us. Leslie has just given us a really great history of how we got from working 1 million hours a day to working 8 hours a day. So.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for having me. Hold on, I'm getting a little interference, so let me just clear this up real quick so you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
And I want you to pull over.
she wants you to pull over so you're safe. We all want you to pull over and be safe.
All right, hold on one sec.
But while you're doing that, just going over some of the things that has been said about this UAW strike, that the strike will impact the economy tremendously. For every 10 days UAW was on strike, that's $50 billion impact to our economy. That's billion, B, 50.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. It impacts not just those workers who are on strike, but also the small business supplier units that's on strike, and the businesses near those plants who rely on those workers to come and purchase goods, the child care centers who look forward to those children being dropped off so that their parents can go to work. It is really an ecosystem surrounding an auto worker. And even your brothers and sisters at Blue Cross Blue Shield are on strike in Unity. I guess in Unity, they got to negotiate their contract too. So we appreciate that. And me being a former union organizer, and by the way, I am still a part of AFT, Local 2000, and I'm SAG-AFTRA. Hello, somebody, because yes, she was an actress. So my credits from doing the Detroiters in that movie, that other movie that was filmed here in Detroit, Batman v Superman. I was a part of that. And actually that paid for my union card. But Mr. O'Neill, you're back. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
And while you're giving those, Leslie, let me go back to Local 174, General Motors Turnstand, where my father was a member, which helped put me through Wayne State University. So, you know, the unions have done a whole lot in this area to help a whole lot of folk.
Yes. So, Mr. O'Neill, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, thank you for having me. And it's great that you serve this platform for labor and also supporting the cause of being in labor in Detroit, and being a Black Detroiter also in the labor movement is a significance as well, because we still are in a league of different and special needs from this labor movement, and also our union. It's a different perspective of being there. So once again, I thank for the platform to be able to discuss what is our current events going on in the UAW.
Absolutely. So tell me, what does this strike mean for you? And since you mentioned it, particularly African-American workers.
Well, I can tell you as union as a whole, what it's done for Black labor, and especially in the city of Detroit, this being a home of labor where it should be. And the economy, I heard you speak about the economy, impactful economy when you are a African American in the labor movement means a lot. It means diversifying and breaking through new grounds through this entity of brothers and sisters. It's where we get to have that civil rights movement and then take up the fruits of that labor of the civil rights movement and incorporate it in the labor movement. It gives a platform to say we can overcome systemic racism. We can overcome our biases amongst each other and do right with that UAW Local 900 and come together as a body to stand against what is a total economic oppression on a group of people who only want to instill the American dream and raise just families like you'll hear all over the place. We're not asking to be billionaires, and we ain't asking to be below the poverty level, just enough so we can sustain life for our families and generations.
Right. And so it is said that, and you tell me if I'm missing anything, the primary things that you're asking for, or President Sean Fain on behalf of the members is asking for job security, in a shorter work week, and the ending of this tier system, right?
Right. Yes.
Explain the tier system, because that sounds like inside politics. When regular folks hear that on the news, we don't know what that means. It's like, we thought you all were ballers.
Right. Yeah. Everybody thinks
Tell you
that
about your
you.
system, but I'll let Mr. O'Neill talk about that first. But I retired from AT&T Michigan Bell,
Right.
and when we split
So
back in 1980, whatever it is, we had a tier system for those folks who were current employees were getting paid one thing, and then the people who might have come to us from Western Electric or someplace else got paid another thing. So yeah, but it was less than. So yeah, there
and
was
you are
definitely a tier system. Not
you are
good.
absolutely right. That dates back to 1980 exactly, when
Mm-hmm.
the tier system was implemented into absolute general labor, and it is a discriminatory, union busting, and it's absolutely direct to the worker to let them know that they can work for less and have us against each other, even in our own facilities. The tier
Exactly.
system does exactly this. It cuts the worker in half for the same amount of work.
Mm-hmm.
Having something like that, a tier system on top of now, used to be right to work state, and I'm proud. That's one thing I'm proud of. I was on the Capitol steps in Michigan when the lame duck session happened, and we fought for that. We fought against it with side by side, just like we're doing now. And I've been in this 10-year span to be able to watch that bill be abolished
Yeah.
and the worker take back power once again for that. But having a tier system absolutely divides us. It liquidates and saves the company money. It's a company friendly tactic that is forced upon you by fear of what is. Now, back in 2007, I can tell you there was this opening of this contract that had to agree during a time of Great Depression and recession that we had to stay consolidated. But I'd like to say one thing about Ford Motor Company, as you highlighted earlier in the interview. We have to say that they are the only company that didn't take bailout money and actually relied on the brothers and sisters of the UAW to sustain their company. Bill Ford said himself, in the darkest times of this company, the UAW has helped my family and helped our company stay with the light at the end of the tunnel. So all we asking for in return out of the abolish this tier system and make us whole. We have a gigantic grievance with the auto industry right now for our underprivileged workers that should be brought up to rate and should not be used as tools along the way when a company is profitable, did not return what they got off of their backs. They've been working for half price for too long. And our story in the mid grade people, like I've got from, I'd say from 10 to 15 years, we're owed that money and we'll stand that line forever if need be because it's been past time. 15 years of back pay is needed. 15 years ahead of us in futuristic investment is required for us to be able to sustain a legacy of 30 years under one roof in a career mode where we need to grow with the economy each day. Each
That's
year,
right.
you see record profits come out of these companies, and we're still voiceless because we're
Right.
getting looked over, and we're the wheels that turn this country that still carry the American dream.
Absolutely.
So
We have a
Freeman,
question from we have a question from the watching audience, the viewing audience, and it is with the request for a reduced number of hours from 40 to 32, would that impact production?
It wouldn't impact production, but it would give a fresh workforce to push more production. If we can have more times with our families and get things squared away, our focus could be our career and bringing a top quality product out of all three of these major companies. But we need time too, some conditioning, and look, we need some TLC on these bones. We need health care that will take care of these bones after I'm done using them. It doesn't make sense to watch and put back a worker that is dedicated his entire life. Like you said, we reduced by law only, not just a preference, from 16 hours to 8 hours, and that's still too much in a day when you got 3 to 5 kids running around and they're different age groups and you need to be a parent as well. And real life needs to be incorporated in real products that we produce that we can't even afford. So a
right.
wage increase is needed if you want me to be an advocate for a product that is American, made by world-class workers. World-class workers that work every day and push this economy by the money that they spend out of these contracts. And then we'll go back to when you asked me what it is to be an African American in the labor movement. Those contracts mean everything to the inner cities and the people who bring them home. We stimulate economies and at your local liquor stores, local businesses. We're the first ones to patronize them. Profit sharing is everything. That means a great Christmas. That means grandma can get what she needs, and
Right.
the rest of the family too.
And it is this investment back into our working class. It
Absolutely.
is the labor union who will buy the house, who will buy that vehicle, who will send their children to college. You are a direct fueling the larger picture of the economy. And so to definitely respect that and recognize that. But Raymond, what do you say when you hear CEOs on the news and they say, listen, we're just coming out of a recession too. The federal government may shut down. This could strike a recession in the nation. The strike is not good. We don't really have the money like that. Yeah, we made profits, but that was on the short term. We don't know what the future is going to look like with this demand for electrification by 2030, 2035. What do you say to that?
I would tell that CEO, like I was taught, I treat the CEO just like I do the janitor. Everybody deserves respect. And a respectable wage in America is what's needed by union workers. And the ones pushing a product that we walk past. I build a sports car, right? I can't afford that sports car at almost 90 grand. But you want me to reflect the hard work that says I make 90 grand? No way. So, Mr. CEO, I would tell you, give us an offer that we can't refuse, and we'll work for you we'll send our next generations too if need be. Because we have. You're talking to a third generation UAW Ford employee that is still pushing the narrative and trying to push a little bit further from the hard work that came from my father and my grandfather, and making it valuable again, and actually putting an American value behind the American product.
Absolutely. I've got a father who worked at GM, a brother who worked at Chrysler, and a nephew who now works at Ford. So we span the generations. And it's been good for our family, but it's also been good for the companies.
Also, absolutely, it's been good for the company. You can see by the dividends that they share in the stock market. You can see by the CEO's $20 million salary on top of bonus and incentives and severance packages for the departing ones. Well, you can see the 1.2 million that they send on the front of the buildings just to put cars on display that nobody can see. So I can tell you where waste management is up top, because we count our dollars down here. Right. They count for something. They count for tuitions. They count for bills. They count for maybe a family vacation if we can get past these mandatory 16
a day or two off work.
Exactly. You're getting a lot of positive feedback on the comments here. One person says, Larry says, Raymond O'Neal for UAW president. So
I'm still training. I'm always with a pen and a pad, and I just like to be of help and be of support and an advocate for my union, because we're here because this did change my life. Nobody wakes up every day and say, hey, I want to work in the hardcore auto industry. But this is the second chance for people who want to push forward and give that second chance to people that are in America, like they come to America for a second chance from countries that are disadvantaged, that we want to touch as well with the UAW and this family concept that we have. We keep it family business.
Absolutely. I have another question. And I'm going back a number of years now, but at one time there was something called a nickel an hour for education.
The nickel fund. Absolutely. Bring back the nickel fund. I should get t-shirts, right? Our nickel fund funded our education. It sent us to places like Black Lake, the Walter Reuther Education Center, that we all have an investment in, that enriches our union and labor skills. This is a facility that's designed for UAW members and abroad to come and learn about absolute labor, where it was born at. The man that is the face of labor is right there, and we're all invested in it. And I believe that every one of our members should be able to be there and shed that education. I've taught there. I've been taught there. I've attended conferences there, and they changed my life towards what is the labor movement And the education from the nickel fund, yes, it should be a joint venture with the company and union to absolutely push forward, because there's history in the big three, and there's absolute rich history in this union. And every member should know where they've been to know where they're going.
Is a nickel fund a part of these negotiations? Is that something that's being asked to be returned? Do you know?
That I can't say as a resolution, but I know that a resolution is to pay workers what they're worth.
Yeah.
That is the goal, is to make
One of the
sure we're
things-
taken care of.
Yes. And one of the things that is asked for is job safety and job security. You mentioned when you work on the line, when you're in manufacturing, it does have a toll on your body. I was doing some research recently on the lack of workers and what's causing that, and how many of our workers are on disability because of the hard labor that they have to do. And so not being able to be active in the workforce, but you're on disability, doesn't really help the companies either. And that's money wasted out the door. But the other interesting thing that has been talked about in this strike is this job security in terms of AI, the threat of artificial intelligence on the workforce. How does AI impact what you do at UAW in the Ford?
Well, AI is definitely, I wouldn't say it's an arch nemesis, but I'd say that it's a technology we don't know how to work with yet, due to the lack of information of it becoming so prominent in the industry. Us being left behind, the plans of all these big three automakers are making us less valuable if we're not bidding on the work that they have coming in 10 years from now. If we're not able to have a leg in on what we need to coach up our workers on, what's the next phase? If they're keeping that under lock and key and then springing on us, shooting down south where they know they're not union friendly, and then denying us the access to organize, we can't keep up with the technology. That's when it becomes a fear of the worker that's only used to combustible engines. We're facing a new revolution in electricity that it's like Star Trek. The boldly go where no man has gone before. And it's both sides are nervous and we both got anxiety, but this is what we do know as union workers. 10, 20, 30 years down the line, we still need to have careers that pay off. We need to have health care to take care of these cracking bones and this arthritis and the carpal tunnel from repetitious work. I push out almost 400 units a day of the same thing at the same time at the same pace. Human bodies are not used to repetition. I condition my body like a pro athlete because I want to stay elite. I'm like Tom Brady. I'm going for 30 years, and I got to put an investment into my body that says I need extracurricular things like therapeutic massages and stuff, options to have, like a fitness center that works, and making sure my mental health is intact from having the same environment time after time again. After 30 years, I'm institutionalized at this point. So it needs to be, especially where there's a lack thereof, and the people who look like us and the resources, there need to be, the contracts need to reflect these things for the need to get me in this parking lot and through those turnstiles every day.
That's right.
I have two questions from one of our listeners, and one of them is the president's coming in tomorrow. If you had a chance to speak to the president, what would you tell him? What would you want him to know about the strike?
I'd tell President Biden, just be a man of the word when you campaign. Be a friend of the working man. Be a union guy, as we've seen on the headlines. Do not disadvantage this private sector union, and support it and pass legislation and make sure that the ones that we support are given what they need to pass legislation in the White House, to keep collective bargaining protected, to keep the NLRB on our side, and making sure there's checks and balances of power within CEOs.
I like that. I like it. Then the other question has to do with quality. It's oftentimes said that those were Monday morning made cars because there was something happened on it. Can you speak to that for us?
We always have that running joke. It's an auto industry joke. Don't buy a car on a Monday or Friday, but I encourage everybody to buy a car every day because they are made by world-class workers, making a world-class American product, a real American product that we believe in, not a rubber stamp. And we've shown commercials on TV about how these companies are so American, and they're selling the soul of our workforce to the Far East. And by selling the top of this company, they're selling our dream that we still believe in. We're the fighters of the American dream because we live it. We want the house, the ranch house with the 2 cars in the garage and the kids in college and the white picket fence. We still believe in that. We don't want to be the extravagant ones. We want to hold it down with our rich moral values that come from our grandmas and our grandfathers' hard work and them prayers that came along with it. And that's all we ask. And it's not a big hoopla thing. We're not trying to bankrupt companies. We depend on you to sell cars for us to have a living. So absolutely not. In the history of the company, has it been bankrupt like I've heard in the news? No way. If you're on set to make and surging in the market to make more money than you ever have. And it's a public stock traded. Anybody can look it up. I own shares as well. But you can look this information up. This is what they don't tell you. It's our lack of information that we perish, just like it says. Due to lack of information and education, my people will perish.
And information is power. Information is absolutely power.
Absolutely power. That's why I take hold of my education committee.
Right. Yes, you are the chair of education committee. And so in the education of this, can American auto companies stay competitive with this foreign competition when you have American workers demanding more and pay, shorter shifts of a work week? How does a company balance that?
The company can absolutely balance that because the competition is a myth. If you are doing record-breaking things like I'm pretty sure you all have heard, these historic offers. Well,